Navigate to the URL on your screen. Click on More Information. If you're using a different browser, you may see Details or Advanced instead. Click on Go on to the web page. This may take a while. You will have to go through this procedure every time unless you add TMDS to a list of trusted sites in your browser. Click Accept. To begin creating an account, click on the Need Access Click Here link. This brings up a user registration form which has 4 sections. Note that all fields are mandatory as indicated by the asterisks. The first section covers your personal information. Remember, if you are requesting access for the training tier, you should not use your real social security number. It is important that you indicate the appropriate co-common unit, as some of the functionalities within TMDS will be based upon your selections. The second section requests your supervisor's information. It also contains radio buttons that allow you to specify the nature of your duties. This will establish your initial access levels, which will be discussed at length in the next video. The third section asks you to create a password and indicate the reason for creating an account. Review the password format before creating a password. When providing a reason for requesting an account, be as detailed as possible. Finally, the last section contains a security acknowledgement. Check the box to indicate that you agree to it and click Register User Account. Your account will need to be approved by an administrator before you can use it. A confirmation email will be sent to the email address you provided, so be sure to provide a valid email. After your account is approved, navigate to the TMDS login page and sign in with your username and password. When you request a TMDS account, you will likely be granted basic access, but some of your duties may require additional levels of access to view restricted information. As you can see in the top right corner, right now this account has no additional access levels. To change that, we will navigate to the Preferences tab and then to Request Additional Access. There are 11 additional access levels in TMDS. Right now, all of them are grouped under the tab Available. Some of them are prerequisites for others. For example, it is not possible to have behavioral health information access without PHI access. Select the Yes radio button for the access levels you wish to request. Indicate a reason for each request. Remember to be specific so that administrators can make an informed decision about your account needs. When you're done, click on Submit Access Request. Requested levels of access will move from available to pending, and if they are approved, to granted. You will receive an email notification for each approved and denied access level. To register a new patient, we can begin entering data into the fields on the page or perform a patient search to retrieve an existing patient from the database. Here we'll just use initials to perform the search, and from the resulting patient list we can select our patient. Note that the application will indicate if a patient is already registered to your current facility. Instead, we'll manually enter a new patient. Text fields that have an asterisk are mandatory to complete the registration. Non-mandatory fields may be left blank. That information can be added later via the Update Patient page. For family member prefix, we will select the most common entry, 20, Sponsor. Notice that when 20 is selected, the sponsor Social Security number field auto-populates. After we enter date of birth, the system automatically calculates the patient's age. We can select the Sensitive Record checkbox to restrict access to users with protected health information privileges, for example, for behavioral health or sexual assault cases. The content of the remaining sections will vary by facility. For Landstuhl, flight arrival date and time and flight number are required. We will type at least 3 characters of the camp name in the text box to narrow down our search options and select the camp from the drop-down menu. Then we'll select the classification and precedence type of the patient. In the comments section, we can check boxes for the equipment or resources that accompany our patient. This section can be hidden to focus on the rest of the page, but any selections you make will persist while hidden. The next section is Injury Illness. From the drop-down menus, we will select the appropriate operation, injury nature, and medical service. For primary diagnosis, we have a choice between ICD-9 or ICD-10. To search for the primary diagnosis, type at least the first 3 characters of the diagnosis description. Our patient is being transported due to symptoms of angina, so we will select that as primary diagnosis. Additional diagnoses may be selected by clicking the Show Additional Diagnosis tab. Next, select one or more checkboxes in the Enabling Care section as applicable. If the amputation checkbox is selected, the radio buttons in the Amputation Cause section become available for selection. In the Location section, we will select one of the categories from the Treatment Status drop-down menu. The selection determines the options available in the Treatment Location drop-down menu. If needed, enter additional information in the Administrative Notes text field. Click Submit to complete the patient's registration. If you have failed to enter any required information, a message will indicate what is missing. After all required data is submitted, a confirmation message is displayed. An active patient is one who has an open registration record at a facility, and an open registration record has either inpatient or outpatient treatment status. The Update Patient page allows you to modify open registration records for active patients currently located at an MTF. Once again, begin by performing a patient search. Since we just registered this patient, his registration record will be available. It looks identical to the patient registration page with one notable exception, a departure section at the bottom of the page. This allows you to disposition the patient. Open the Disposition drop-down to select an appropriate disposition. Note that if you select any of the transfer options, a drop-down becomes available in the Destination text box. Enter a date in the Departure Date field and click on the Submit button at the bottom of the page. Note that any disposition selected from the Departure section will close the patient record. The Patient Information page allows a review and update of a patient's personal and urgent contact records. Perform a patient search and update any applicable following sections in the page: selected patient information, permanent home of record, home and deployed unit information, emergency contact, and immediate needs. There is also a free text box at the bottom of the page to add any administrative notes. Click Submit to save your changes. The Pre-Registration Arrivals page allows you to arrive or remove a patient from the pre-registration arrivals list, or modify a patient's pre-registration record. You can select Arrive in the column header to select all the patients on the list, or click on Arrive next to a patient name to arrive just that one patient. To modify a pre-registration record, click on the Modify link next to the patient's name. You will be taken to the pre-registration form where you can make any necessary updates or changes. Keep in mind that if you are not accessing TMDS from Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, you may not see pre-registration options. The next menu under the Patient Registration tab is Mission Summary. This report displays flight and medical information about inbound active and pre-registered patients for a selected mission. Note that this report is also available under the Reports tab. To view the report, we will need to select an arrival date and flight number and perform a search. To view a specific patient's records, click the patient's name link and you will be taken to the corresponding patient summary. The last menu item under the Patient Registration tab is Update Mission Info. In the context of this functionality, Mission Info is equivalent to flight information. It allows us to update mission-specific information for patients registered at an MTF. By default, the Update Mission Info report displays mission data for the last 2 weeks, but we can change the arrival start date to broaden the search range. To update a mission's data, click its associated edit link and update the mission information in the dialog box. The underlined table column headers can be clicked to sort the content. We have now covered the entire patient registration menu of TMDS. Remember that your patient registration tab may look different than what's been displayed here, since the TMDS interface is dependent upon your user role and based upon your MTF's role of care and mission. Patient Summary allows you to view medical records of current and previous patients in TMDS. Search for a patient via your choice of the available search options and select from the results list if needed. Although extensive patient information is displayed on this page, none of the text fields are editable. The patient's demographic information is derived from entries in patient registration and can only be updated from there. If available for your patient, click the SF502 View Narrative Summary PDF link to view a clinical resume in a new window. Click the Expand All button to expand all subcategories, or click an expansion toggle for any individual section, such as laboratory results, pain management notes, and blood transfusions. Click the toggle button again to collapse the section. Under Medical Events History, you can view inpatient and outpatient notes. The inpatient history is derived from TC2 data, and outpatient history from Alta-T data. Expand the patient's outpatient records history. The link indicates that there is an associated document you can view. Click it to display an encounter note. Further down the page, you can view traces, behavioral health notes, traumatic brain injury assessments, MTBI diagnosis history, and attachments. You can create a TBI assessment by clicking the Create Note link in the TBI Assessment section. Note that if you do not have PHI access, you will not be able to view certain sections of the patient summary page. A message will notify you that you do not have permission to view this information. If you need to track this patient, you can add him to your patient list by clicking the blue push pin near the top of the page. The patient is then added to your personalized tracking list under the Reports tab. Finally, the Joint Legacy Viewer redirects you to an external source and will be discussed in a separate video. The Reports tab hosts all the reports that can be generated from patient registration records in TMDS. Based on your user role, not all of these reports are available to all users. Contact your system administrator if you require access to a specific report. For this video, we will not delve into all of the available reports, but instead give a general overview of features common to the most used reports. Note that some reports will display data immediately, while others will prompt you to enter information such as a date range before the report can be generated. The first report we will view is the active patient roster. This page displays inpatients and outpatients at the current facility. Click the Modify link to access the Update Patient page. The patient's data can be edited and resubmitted, and the report page is updated as well. Click the patient's name link to view the patient summary page for that patient. The next report we will view is My Task Forces. This page allows you to add or edit units belonging to a facility set. It is a valuable tool if you want to determine the workload at a facility or conduct peer reviews. To create a new task force, click the Add New Task Force link. Enter the UIC or unit name to search for units. Highlight the names of any units you want to include in your task force and click Add or Add All. Next, name the new task force. You can have multiple task forces, so it's important to choose a name that you can easily identify. Finally, save the task force. The new task force is added to your My Task Forces list. If wanted, the task force can also be edited, deleted, or copied for other users. The second submenu under Task Forces is Task Force Report. It displays the task force patient roster for the selected task force and date range. To include inactive patients, meaning patients who have been dispositioned, select the Include Inactive Patients checkbox. For this demo, we'll leave it unselected. Click the View Report button, and a report is generated that lists the patients seen at those facilities within the selected date range. As in most reports, you can click a patient's name link to view their patient summary page. The remaining reports have similar processes. Take a moment to become familiar with them so you know what reporting tools are available to you. To create a pain management note, we will navigate to Patient Treatment, Pain Management Note. As we often do in TMDS, we will begin by performing a patient search. When our existing patient is found, their patient management note is displayed. At the top, we see the Read-Only Patient Demographics section. If we decide we have the wrong patient, we can perform a new search. Below Patient Demographics, we can view the inpatient events history over the last 30 days. Clicking on View Entire Medical History opens up Patient Summary in a new window. Further down the page, there is a section for viewing and documenting patient allergies. We can click on Add Allergies, fill in all the fields, since they are required, and click Add Allergy. Our newly documented allergy now appears in its designated section. Below Allergies, we can view the existing pain management notes for our patient by clicking the Expand and Collapse toggle buttons. Finally, at the very bottom of the page, we can create 3 types of pain management notes: Procedure, Clinical, and Transfer. First, we'll create a procedure note. From the drop-down menu, we'll select IV PCA. We'll use the default date and time here. From the medication drop-down, we'll select morphine and then select No for all other options. Note that if you do select Yes, you may be required to provide additional information. For pre-PCA verbal analog score, we will select 10, and for post-PCA score, we will choose 3. We'll enter information in the free text field and click Create Note. Next, we will create a clinical note. This time we'll update the date and time. If any adjunct medications have been provided over the last 72 hours, they are displayed here. From the current verbal analog score, we'll select 3 and choose 10 from the verbal analog score in the last 24 hours. If the Satisfied with Pain Management question is answered with a no, an additional free text field appears prompting you to enter comments. Finally, type information for Pain Management Plan and any comments and click Create Note. The final note type is Transfer. The data input fields are similar to the clinical note, but the transfer note has an additional field, Destination Facility. Type 3 or more characters for a list of facilities to choose from and select from the list. Navigate to Patient Treatment Behavioral Health (BH) Assessments and perform a patient search. The top section of the Behavioral Health Assessment page is once again Patient Demographics. The second section allows you to view patient summary, behavioral health notes, and behavioral health diagnosis history. Once again, you can click an encounter date to view the encounter record. As expected, the link is classified, so we have to click Continue to view the outpatient record that contributed to behavioral health diagnosis history. In this same section, we can also create a new behavioral health note. The note can be created using a free-form text field or a template. Here we will use the template. We will fill out the service and attending staff fields and indicate that it is an initial visit with anxiety as a working diagnosis. The ADL update refers to activities of daily living or routine actions that we perform without assistance, such as eating, bathing, or getting dressed. We will indicate that our patient has no issues with such activities and enter the patient's prognosis. For estimated discharge, select a future date. In the disposition field, we'll enter released with limitations and in needs and requirements recommend a follow-up. Finally, select the classification for the note and click Save Note. Navigate to Patient Treatment Reports, BH Patient Report. The Behavioral Health Patient Report page displays a list of active patients' latest BH diagnosis and BH assessments within the specified date range. The default range is 1 week, but you can alter the range by entering other dates and clicking View. Click the name of the patient to add a behavioral health note to his record. Click View Encounter to access the record's details. All BH diagnosis codes associated with this report are viewable by clicking on the BH diagnosis link at the top of the page. Navigate to Patient Treatment Reports Behavioral Health Case Review Conference. It displays patients currently added to the patient list to use at joint case review conferences. Clicking the name of the patient opens their patient summary page. Click the Reasons for Listing link to update the patient's record by selecting a different reason. To add another patient to the list, enter patient's information in the search for patient, locate the patient on the list and click Add. Select a reason from the drop-down menu and click the Add Patient button. Your patient is now on the list. To remove him from the list, check the box next to his name under Remove and click Update. Note that multiple patients may be removed at one time. If none of the canned reports reflect all the parameters that are of interest to us, we can create an ad hoc report. We'll begin by selecting it from the directory tree and clicking on the new report icon. When a query dialog box displays, select Universe, then Blood Inventory Report Universe, and click OK after each selection. Now we will find and select the query objects. We have the option to display query objects by a master perspective or by navigational paths. Here we will work with master perspective. Below the outline display, there is also a filter text box that allows you to quickly navigate to specific query objects by typing in text. You see all the query objects that contain the string that you typed. The three types of query objects are dimensions, used to set the reporting categories, filters, applied to further constrain the results, often via prompts, and measures, which aggregate rolled-up counts that apply to the selected dimensions. To the right of the page, there are three panes. Results objects, which is the location for the objects that will act as column headers in the report. The query filters pane, which is where we drag and drop predefined filters or objects. And the data preview pane, which provides a preview of the report. Query objects are nestled in folders. To expand the folders, click the small plus sign. As an example, let's create a blood report. We can add query objects to the selection panes by either double-clicking them in the navigation tree or dragging and dropping objects into the pane. We will add several objects from different folders and subfolders. From the Blood Products folder, we will add the following objects into the Result Objects pane: ABORH short description, DIN, expiration date, product type code, status date, and status. We will also select the status date range prompt from this folder to add to the Query Filters pane to set search parameters by date. Finally, from the Shipment subfolder, we will add Destination Facility MTF-ID and click Run Query. Since we selected a date range prompt, we will see a dialog box that will allow us to define it. We will go back 1 year for the beginning date and choose today as the ending date. And click Run Query again to see the report. To save this report for future use, we can click on the Save icon in the toolbar and select Save As. Select the Favorites folder, name the report, and save it. The report will be added to the Favorites folder. The next time we log in, the report will be available. To add or remove object parameters, we can go to the Data Access tab and click on the Edit button. To remove a query object from the report, click on the object to highlight it, and click the Remove button in the top right of the query panel. To add query objects, we can once again locate them in folders and double-click or drag and drop to add them to corresponding panes. For more information about using the Business Objects interface, click the Help button in the upper corner of the report pane.